Danny's here. She's so sweet. I would get more of her, but she doesn't exactly love being on camera. She has to do it completely on her own accord. Anyway, I thought I would make this vid because it was something that I was recently exposed to, but it's something I actually have been exposed to on an ongoing basis, quite literally. I want to say my entire adult life, but I was experiencing it as a teenager also. Um, and that is women not knowing when to get the fuck away from their boyfriends, husbands, male relationships. Okay. I guess you could say that it's relationships overall, not even just romantic ones, but like this is such a fucking giant topic. The romantic relationships with men seems to be the biggest problem. And part of that is actually the fact that women tend to socialize with each other by bitching and moaning about their male partners. Like, that's a giant, like, socializing opportunity for a lot of women, and I'm not here for it. Okay, so recently I was hanging out with my friend, and she actually, like, ended up breaking up with this guy, like, when she and I were hanging out. And it took her way too fucking long because she had been saying these same things to me. First of all, so she was like in a relationship with this guy who's not in the same city as us. It's still kind of nearby, but it's quite a drive. But you know, if you're really committed, I think you can make it work. But just the things that she was telling me, like when they were still going strong, okay, she told me that she had been in his car with him driving, this guy that she was seeing, okay? And she told me that he was so bad at driving and such a risky driver that she feared for her life when she was in the car with him. And I was like, "Oh, it's time to break up. You do not fucking want to be with a guy like that. You do not fucking want to be in a car with someone who is incapable of driving." Let me just say really quickly that more often than not, men are almost always responsible for major automobile accidents. It's more often than not their faults. But anyway, that aside, if you feel so unsafe in a car with a guy that you like because he's so bad at driving, break up with him. Break the fuck up. But anyway, um, so that wasn't the only issue, all right? But she told me that like months before they broke up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's time to break up with him," but she just didn't listen. And then she was telling me over time that she just felt like he wasn't really invested in her, that he wasn't really interested in her, that he wasn't regularly calling her and messaging her and doing whatever else people do to communicate when they're, long distance. He just wasn't doing any of that. And I was like, okay, time to break up with him. And she kept being like, "Oh, but I like him." And I was like, this is not the first time that's happened though. It's really not. And I can't remember if I said this or not, but it is like a major socializing problem with women that they just what's the word? Fuck. Oh my god, I can't believe I'm not remembering this. Okay, actually in Korean, they call it laundry service talk. What is it called? This is bothering me. Someone else can get at it in the comments. They call it laundry service talk in Korean. And what it is like you go to your friends, your women friends as a woman, and you say, "Oh, my boyfriend, my husband did this to me, and it was so bad," or like, "And I felt so bad," or it was so inconveniencing, or whatever. And then instead of women saying, "Wow, that's not okay. No one should be doing that to you," they say, "Oh, you won't believe what my boyfriend did." There's a term for it in English, but I don't remember it for some reason. But anyway, um, that needs to stop. You need to stop tolerating these things. You need to stop listening to your women friends complain and cry about their men, and you need to start saying break up with him. Break up with him. Like that's the thing about hearing these messages, okay? Is when you hear these messages of like break up with him, that is the universe, that is the world, that is God, that is your friend who cares about you, telling you to break up with him because it's the right thing to do. But anyway, I knew this other woman. She and I are no longer friends, but she was in this absolutely horrible, abusive relationship for like, I think over 5 years. I think they were physically together for 5 years, and then they were like off and on for years after that. But wow, that was the worst thing ever. That was the worst abusive relationship that I've ever been around. At one point, she had a black eye, and she told me that it was from them like goofing around, like play wrestling. And I was like, at the time I kind of believed her, but now thinking back, I'm like, that can't have been from play wrestling. Listen, I like telling a story because I say something I don't get to say often. This may not hold up in court. I'm just going to put that out there, like for me. What happened with her is her man was cheating on her for years, and she didn't know. What happened was he was with her, physically with my friend, but he had this like textual relationship with another woman in a different state. And he was, I don't remember if he had actually met this woman or they had like found each other on social media or something. It doesn't matter because he didn't tell this other woman that he was in a relationship in real life. And of course they sent each other explicit photos, and he was always like, he was very often texting her. He was even talking to her on the phone. Something my friend told me that just shocked me was at one point he was on the phone with this other woman when he lived with roommates, and my friend came over and he had already arranged for his roommates to tell my friend that he was on the phone with like a family member, when in reality, so he had his roommates lie for him, and they did that because he was talking to this other girl, this other woman that he was interested in, that he was cheating on my friend with. Okay. And that is just so, that is like pure mind fuckery. That is pure evil, honestly. And that is just pure disgusting, purely like irresponsible, and like you are less of a man if you behave that way towards women. But anyway, all these terrible things happen. He was also a fucking drug dealer. But so finally, my friend was able to look at his phone while he was asleep in her apartment, of course. So she looked at his phone and she saw the texts from this other woman. So she, had proof that he was cheating on her. Okay. And let me just say this, is that even if someone has never met this other person, they've maybe not even sent explicit photos to one another. Like if someone is lying about being in a relationship, or even if they not outright lying about being in a relationship, like if they're really pursuing a relationship through a phone, like that is a problem, and it's time to break up. But anyway, so my friend approached her then sleeping boyfriend. She had his phone, and she was like, okay. She woke him up and she was like, I know, I see this. I see your texts from this other woman. I know you've been cheating on me. And he started trying to physically get the phone from her. And at that point, though, any real man, any responsible man, any decent human being would be like, okay, yeah, you got me. You see the proof. What can I say? Or, or like, what do you want to do? You know? But anyway, so it was already established that he had been cheating on her. And it didn't matter if he had the phone or not. But so he started trying to physically obtain the phone from her. And what he did was she had hardwood floors in her apartment. He like picked her up. They ended up on the floor, obviously. He picked her up and he like slammed her really hard on the floor, like on her side, like on her shoulder. Fam, look at me. Look at me. If a man did that to me in my own home, I would go right the fuck to the kitchen. I would get my biggest, nicest fucking babish knife, slit his throat, and let him die on my floor. I would wait a couple minutes just to make sure he would bleed out. And then I would call the police and be like, oh my God, I killed my boyfriend in self-defense. Because, like, that is just not okay. That is not okay for a man to physically harm a woman like that. It is not okay for women to be okay with it. It's not okay for women to go back to a man like that. It's not okay for women to think that men can just think, oh, he just lost control, or like, oh, he was just really mad in the moment. Because, like, wow. I feel like a lot of women don't really value their lives unless they have a man in it. I guess they would rather have an abuse. Some women legitimately would rather have an abusive man than no man at all, which is just pathetic, honestly. But anyway, so after all that happened, you want to guess what happened? Do you want to guess? Do you want to guess what happened? They kind of got back together, but they weren't like really back together, you know? They were off and on, like I said, but like that was such a really extreme situation for me because I had never experienced anything to that level and I fucking never will again. Um, where was I going to go with this? That was an extreme situation. And what actually happened during it was a lot of her friends ditched her. A lot of her friends were like, we can't, like, if you're going to stay with that guy, like, I can't be your friend. And I understand where they were coming from, and that actually does make sense to a degree. But, like, and they really were trying to get her to have a come to Jesus moment and be like, wow, I should really get away from this guy. But, like, she didn't listen. And I honestly really wanted to ditch her also. Because when I heard that her friends did that, I was like, oh, that's kind of a good idea. But then I looked into it, and what I found on the internet said that if you know someone, if you know a woman, because it's more often than not a woman, but not always, who is in an abusive relationship with a man, you shouldn't ditch her. You should continue to try to be her friend and be there for her, because if she ever were to really try to leave, and she just had no one, then she would have no one to help her. So I was like, okay, I think I can, remain her friend. Anyway, that was crazy. I didn't even mean to make this about freaking abuse, but here we are. I just don't understand these women who are willing to waste so much time with these losers. You know, going back to my first friend who ended up breaking up with that guy because he wasn't paying enough attention to her and he was fucking terrible at driving. Like, they ended up talking before they broke up, and it was pretty mutual, obviously. But he said to her, he was like, oh, I was purposely withdrawing from you because I wasn't really feeling secure in the relationship. If that's the case, why wouldn't you man up and be like, hey, I'm sorry, this isn't working? That's 6 whole words you have to type on a phone. I guess just, letting it hang in the air and not fully communicating is easier for some of these dumb shits. But anyway. I heard these women at a park one time say that, so they both had young children, okay? And I heard them say that, but one of them was like, "Oh, my husband doesn't cook. I'm the one that has to cook all the time." And the other one was like, "Oh yeah, it's the same at my house." And they weren't even saying it like it was a bad thing. They were just saying it like matter of factually. I really fucking wish I had said, because I was right there. I wish I'd been like, that's wrong. You guys, you should not tolerate that. That's bullshit. Like, are you kidding me? Your man can't fucking unfreeze chicken nuggets and put ketchup out and pour water in cups for you and your kids. Like, really? Really? Ditch that dumb shit. But anyway. Where else can I think about this having happened? Okay, here's a trend on the social media, on the TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but I know this is on TikTok. It's on other places too, where women just like make videos of themselves complaining about their husbands. Like, that's their main subject that they talk about. They're like, "Oh, my husband did this thing. It was so annoying. Da, 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 da. I'm so annoying." It's like, okay, first of all, obviously you have the right to do that. I'm not going to stop you. But, like, if that's all you can talk about, maybe it's time to separate from your husband. Maybe it's time to not be in that relationship anymore if all he does is annoy you and you're willing to freaking broadcast it to the world. Like, that's a problem. Like, I don't know what is wrong with these women who don't understand that their relationships are really a bigger problem than they are good thing, or they are a blessing. To be fair here, I really did tolerate a lot of bullshit from my ex that I should not have allowed. Okay. I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something about that. Oh, okay. Well, towards the end of our relationship, I was thinking, and I think I had said even, that like he felt less like a boyfriend, less like a partner, and he felt more like a live-in best friend. Your romantic partner should not be feeling like a live-in best friend. That is a relationship that needs to be ended if that's how you feel. Because he should be your romantic male partner. Like, you guys should be having feelings for each other. You guys should be intimate, You guys should have a good relationship. And yeah, he should be your best friend. He should be your number one. But if he feels more like a king baby roommate that you have to like clean up after all the time, and you're more annoyed than you are happy, like, that'd be a problem. That be a problem. That be a problem. This is a voice recorder, and I use one all the time because it's like a diary, and it really is best to hear your own voice when you're voicing your own thoughts, okay? And I definitely advocate for people to, write down their thoughts or draw or talk to a friend or whatever. Like, I'm all for all those things. However, when you hear your own voice saying your own thoughts, it hits different, okay? So I actually didn't have this particular voice recorder when he and I were together, but towards the end of our relationship, not even towards the end of our relationship, even during our relationship, I said a lot of things on a voice recorder that should have made me pause and be like, oh, this is really not in my best interest to continue this relationship. However, what happened was, and I think this is a lot of women's problems, is I had this idea in my mind of what I wanted my relationship to be like. I had this idea of what I wanted us to become, okay? Me and my ex. And instead of, and I don't think that's bad. That's not a bad thing. You should have, goals and activities and things you want to do with your partner, okay? But I should have really thought about it and been like, okay, yeah, I want this, and I want this. Are we on track for those things to happen? Yes or no? I should have been like, no. And then I should have been like, it's time to break up. But I didn't, okay? It didn't happen for me. Thankfully, my ex was actually man enough to break up with me. Okay? If you have a guy who's man enough to break up with you, congratulations, you've leveled up. Okay? But I'm just saying that women need to stop tolerating so much bullshit. They need to stop tolerating so much abuse. They need to stop tolerating so much indifference. And they also need to, if you're a woman, you also need to understand what your needs are in a relationship. You need to know yourself. And you need to be able to gauge of whether or not your male love interest is ticking the boxes you need him to tick for you, right? Because if you can't do that, then you're in trouble. Like, sorry, I don't know what else to tell you. I'm honestly, I'm real sick of hearing women talk about this shit and be like, my boyfriend. I knew this woman a long time ago who went to some, I think it was a rainbow gathering. I think that's what it was called. And she, you could like organize a group for whatever reason. Like just organize a little like hangout session, okay? And she organized a little hangout session at a rainbow gathering for women, just to like be women together and enjoy each other's company and like stew in their femininity and laugh and sing or whatever together for like a few hours. And she said that all the women, and they did that, so that she was like on the little list to do that, and they all met up, and she said all they did for like hours was talk about men. And not just talk about men, but talk about how much men had done this to them, how much men had done that to them, like how much they were dissatisfied in their relationships. And she was like, what was the point of this? She was like, I accidentally just scheduled like a bitch session about males, and that was not my intention. Anyway, this video's gotten kind of long. I guess what I mean to say is, don't get yourself in a situation where you might have to accidentally kill your boyfriend, wait for him to bleed out, and then call 911 and claim it was self-defense. I'm being funny here. That's a thing that I do. That's a thing that the camera gets out of me, okay? Because I am, in fact, hilarious. But, like, I'm going to say this, and it's probably not what you think, where you think I was going to go, but I have made the poor decision to watch a lot of shit about serial killers, watch a lot of shit about women in love with serial killers that are in prison, watch a lot of shit in general, okay, about men who have killed women. And unfortunately, I honestly believe at this rate that for some women it's kind of a turn on, knowing your partner could just kill you at any moment. It's a situation that they purposely put themselves in again and again and again. Life is worth living, okay? Life is worth living with or without a man in your life, with or without a romantic relationship with a man in your life. And you need to figure it out for yourself, what you want to live for. Because me personally, I'm ain't living for some male. Maybe we can come together as a team and build a life together. That would be awesome. But I do not spend every waking moment of my life thinking about how I can get a boyfriend, or like keeping a shitty guy around because he's a shitty guy and he's around. Okay? And if you do that, I feel sorry for you. If you do that, you need to woman up and stop.